engaged. Now, just the caveat, I want to say this is more focused on the students who are still remote, but some of the tips and tricks I'm going to give you can be used for students that are in person as well. So let's get started. So let me just give you a little more information about myself. My name is Joy Blake. I'm the instructional technology specialist for Chicago Public Schools. I've worked as a STEM specialist. I've worked as an upper elementary 5th through 8th grade math and science teacher, and I've been teaching since 2005. I've been using G Suite in my classroom since 2014. I'm a Google certified level 1 and 2 educator, and just an aimless plug, I have a podcast on YouTube with my husband called Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody. All right, let's keep going. So before we get started, one thing I want to remind everyone, just the basic etiquette, we have to remain muted. This meeting is going to be recorded, which this slide is here to help me. Oh, it's automatic. Awesome. It's going to be recorded. And if you have any questions, please make sure to put them in the chat. I will try my best to answer them. If I cannot, I always leave about 15 minutes at the end to answer questions, or if you want me to show you how to do something again, I will do those things for you. So let's get into our learning objectives. What are we learning today? What are we trying to accomplish? First thing is learners will be able to gain an understanding of techniques to effectively motivate the remote student. Learners will discover digital resources to use in their classroom to do that. So I always like to start my sessions with my little sales pitch. And what I'm selling to you is, what are you going to see? How are you going to be able to use it? And why I know it works. Okay. So you know what you're getting out of this session. So first and foremost, what you're going to see is you're going to, of course, see the presentation. That's one. Two, you're going to see me demonstrating how to do certain things. You're going to see me going to different websites. So it's a little bit, some demonstrations within this. How you're going to be able to use it is you'll get a PDF of this presentation at the end, and you can use that in your classroom. Also within this presentation are embedded multiple websites and links, as well as examples that I created and used in my classroom, which I'm going to give to you to use if you would like to as well. And how I know it works? Well, how I know it works is because I literally used it in my classroom myself. And now I'm going to give these tips to you. All right, so let's keep going. So this session is broken up into 5 parts. I tried to be clever, as you can see, and I used, because it's called 42 Fs, I wanted to start each section with the letter F. I thought that was clever. I don't know. Anyway, so this is broken up into, first thing we need to do to motivate students is shift our focus, or have a focus shift. Secondly, we want to forget the past. Thirdly, we want to feel for our students. That's it. I think that's fourthly, we want to find what works. And then 5, we want to make sure that we forge a bond. Okay, so let's start with this first one, which is doing a focus shift. What does a focus shift mean? It's literally what it says. It means shifting our focus. What are we focusing on? There's a lot of things that are not in our control. Are we focusing on those things? So it's about trying to shift our focus towards things that we actually can control and working on those components within our classroom. So before I keep going, I just want to touch on Brene Brown. She has the freaking first times theory, which basically means, the first time something happens, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. There's going to be challenges. And we all have to face it. Just as simple as when you get a bike, the first time you get on it, you don't just magically know how to ride it. That's in any situation, that's your first time. So basically what you would do is you're going to name it. Like I've never taught remote students and hybrid students at the first time. Like, who has ever done that? This is hard. And then you give it perspective, realize it's not permanent, and think about all the things that you've overcome as an educator for the very first time. I mean, the very first year of teaching, that was like a slow boat ride to hell. Did we make it through our very first year of teaching? We did. So that means we'll make it through this. Okay. Let's keep a reality. Let's keep everything a reality check. Everybody's going through this. It's challenging. And then remember to build in rest and recovery. Like, take a break. We're tired. Don't do these internet. I'm guilty of internet spirals where I'm trying to find the best technique, and all of a sudden I've been on the internet for 4 hours. It's okay to take a break. And then just remember, stay in fit. It's the freaking first time condition. So remember that new things are gonna keep coming our way. And it's up to us to build our resilience to make it through this. Well, really our stamina. So the next thing also is in our classrooms with remote students and hybrid students, there are some instructional constraints that are not in our control that we have to work around, which is time, space. The routines change. Literally, you have Monday and Tuesday, you have some routines, then there's a break in the week, and then you have a different group of kids, and you have to do those routines with them. So don't be too hard on yourself. Be realistic. Also, another instructional constraint is the way relationship building is more challenging in this situation, and just sheer accountability. All right. Now I'm going to give you an example of a focus shift that I had to do in my own classroom. Would you believe it? I thought I had it all together. I did not. And my example of a focus shift is this one right here where it says, keep calm and give me a link. Okay. Now, when I was in class, I hated giving students links in the chat. It annoyed me to no end. I was like, why can't you have the Google Classroom right in front of you? Just go to Google Classroom, open up the assignment. Why do I have to give you a link? You know this website, bookmark the website. Why do I would just be ranting on the Google Meet about this. So I decided to do a focus shift. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to give these kids the link. And I thought about it like, okay, in your regular classroom, the kids have to get a worksheet. You pass out the worksheet, and usually there's at least 3 kids who for some reason don't get that worksheet. You're still going to just give them the worksheet. They came late or some random, they weren't listening. You still give them the worksheet. And then I thought to myself, you know what? That's the same as giving them the link. And I shifted my focus. Okay. So that's what we all have to do. Also, I gave right here. Oops. This is I didn't want to click on it. I'm going to go back. But you can click on it when you get the presentation. But this is an example of an activity about in and out of your control. You could do this as an adult. I've done this with my students. But it's a good reflection thing to think about what's in your control, especially when it comes to motivating your students. And this quote, of course, it doesn't matter if you build a thing right, if you aren't building the right thing. So shifting your focus is a good start. So let's go to the next part, which is forget the past. Now, I had to put in a GIF of remember the times, because it's really hard to let go of what we used to do. And so let's just talk about that now. Why not? So we're unable to do the things we used to do as teachers in the classroom. One example is just giving out physical copies of things is more challenging now. We can't, it's hard to give out physical copies. In the first place, kids lose them, but now we have a whole set of kids who are remote. And so it's harder to send home notes, homework, all those things are more challenging now. Incentives and field trips, unfortunately, we tried the virtual field trip. It's not the same. We have to admit this. So things aren't quite the same. Also, something that's not the same is everybody was more present. If a kid was absent, it was more obvious that they were absent. If usually parents were more present too, because you could, after school, I used to go out to the parking lot and talk to parents about their kid. It's a lot more challenging to do this when you have students who are completely remote. I'm going to come back. And then, of course, the tensions. I used to hate the tensions when I was a teacher, but now when I became remote, and had a more remote setting, I really miss doing detentions. It's just not the same because it's hard to make sure the kids log in detention in the first place. How are you going to make them serve it? I used to do homework detentions. I mean, it's just not the same. And then also grading for me felt easier when I was in the physical classroom. It's more challenging in the digital space because you're doing, so you have to do a lot more like individual grade entry. At least that's what I've noticed. So those are some things that we used to do. So what are we going to do now? Well, one thing we can do, let's start with the grading. We can revamp the way we grade and rethink that. So in my opinion, first step is reduce the amount of zeros you give out. You pretty much shouldn't be giving out zeros. It's just going to make the kids' grades plummet. If the average of an assignment is under 70%, or maybe you want to say 65%, but if it's under 70, you should realize that a majority of the students have not mastered that topic. So either I wouldn't put it in the grade book because that's going to make, it's going to make your grade book kind of plummet. So I would either redo it or delete that assignment. I would also, it's very important to make students aware of what the grades mean. A lot of kids don't understand the weighting scale. They think, well, they might, for instance, I had a kid who always did their homework, but homework is only worth 5% of their overall grade. And if a kid doesn't understand that, it kind of can impact the way they're graded as well. Also, be more flexible with how you grade, especially in this setting. For me, I was a stickler. I was hardcore. I was giving zeros, Fs, all of that. Especially if a kid turned in an assignment where everything was wrong. But if you, in my opinion, if you have a student who at least tried and turned it in, I think in this situation, we need to not just give them an F. If they tried and turned it in, but everything was wrong, but you could tell they tried, I would suggest maybe give them a 61, give them a 59, instead of giving them just, well, 59 is an F, but maybe give them a 61, you know, just like change the way you think about it. Because right now in this situation we're in, we have more students who literally do nothing. So you want to make sure that if you have kids who are trying to do something, you don't just like plummet their hope or morale with the work they're turning in. And then for a period, this helped me a lot. I actually did do participation points, and I did it for maybe the first 2 weeks of the quarter. And I had 5 points. Like if you come to class, you have to participate, answer a question. When I go on Go Guardian, you need to be on the right website. You cannot spam in the chat, and you can't unmute. I did those 5 things. And I said, if you don't do any of those 5 things, you're going to get 5 participation points for the day. And after a while, after about 21 days, those things started to become habits. And for some kids, it helped their grades, just that little 5 points. It is more work on you as a teacher, but it will pay off in the end. Now, this one is optional. This is based off of your school, but I have been at schools where they will put the slashes in for students who don't come to school at all, instead of for students who, for students who come to school but get a bad grade. Instead, they put slashes in for students they have not seen. So another thing, just remember, it's going to take time. It's going to take training for not only you, but also the students to learn these systems and get more motivated. So the first step is make sure if a student turns in the infamous blank assignment on Google Classroom, do not waste your energy sending them a comment. Why this is blank? Why didn't you do? I used to do that. I was like, why am I wasting time doing this? All I literally do, I don't grade it. I don't send a comment. I just return it right back to them. Because then what I noticed is some of my students were just clicking turn in Google Classroom so that their parents couldn't see that they had missing assignments. And so it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna get you back. I'm gonna return this right back to your little butt. And your mom, when she check, is gonna see that that's missing. So that's instead of sending them a comment. And once you put that grade in, I would say don't do that. Also, make sure you set aside time during class to go through grades and missing work. Maybe you do it missing work Monday, whatever it is. It has to be a consistent thing, especially during this time because kids are disconnected. Secondly, make sure you cover yourself and document everything in MTSS because it's important. It helps keep a record, especially if kids are not doing well. It helps the next teacher know what's going on. So it's important to keep those records. And remember, attendance matters. And if kids understand, like, hey, and when you come to school, you do better. And if you can get data, give them examples, they listen to that. They want to hear those stories. Like a story I always would tell would be about my college roommate. I'd tell them this story like, hey, she never came to school on Mondays. And then for some reason, once she got to college, she just couldn't finish because she built the habit of not coming to school. So just those personal stories about attendance help students to connect. Now, here's some examples. I would suggest you can also group students sometimes according to their scores. So this is something that I did based off of exit slips. So if a student, I'll be like, these kids got 100 on their exit slip, they did an assignment. These kids got 80, they got to do a separate assignment. And then kids who got 70 stayed with me, maybe in a breakout room or just in the main room and redid the lesson. And the kids in red were kids who just never turned it in. Just simply doing this at least once a week helped with my overall work completion. Also, something I would just say, don't grade as much. So something that helped me not grade as much was I just created check-off systems in Google Sheets where instead of giving every single assignment a grade, I would just be like, okay, this kid turned it in, this kid turned this in, check it off. And then if they have 4 checks a week, that's the A. It just was a quicker way for me to grade because everything is so digital now. So we're going to keep moving on. So let's move to number 3, which is the feel for the student. Okay. Now, in the first part, I'm more trying to extend. I want you to remember to extend grace to yourself. But in some situations, we also have to extend grace to the children we teach. Okay. Just like you, maybe I'm an exception, but I have missed deadlines as an adult. I have missed things I was supposed to turn in. I have missed important emails. My husband will tell you. So everybody sometimes misses things or doesn't turn things in or isn't paying attention. We all have this. It's the same with our students. I'm not excusing them not doing work. Don't get that twisted. But we still do have to extend some form of grace to them. So let's start here. So 10 reasons. These are the reasons I made up why I think some students are not doing their work. So the first one I've encountered, they think that things that count for nothing count for something. So what that means, you have a student that literally thinks, oh, I come to school every day, I should get a C. You have not done any work. You came to school every day and literally have not done anything. So that's something where they think something that counts, it doesn't count for nothing. I shouldn't say that, but it's like they don't know which things count and which things don't count, which things hurt their grade, which things help their grade. Those are examples. So something I started to do if we were taking notes, hey, this is important for you to do, but this is not going in the grade book. And the things that are going in the grade book, make sure they understand, make sure they know the weight. That's important. Next, they don't know how to find the work and access missing work. I found this very common, the Google Classroom platform. It is convenient and nice, but from the student view, if there's too many assignments, too many posts, students get confused and they don't know where to find the work. They are not checking Aspen, so they're just not checking their grades or they don't know how to do that. And of course, we have this. They have too many distractions. I mean, as a teacher, we're competing with Nintendo Switch. We're competing with YouTube, Hulu. We're competing with all this thing. And we're also competing with just the comfort of a kid wanting to go in their bed and go to sleep because they're at home. So they are dealing with a lot of distractions, and we have to make sure our classes are engaging enough to keep their attention because they have so many distractions. Also, they don't understand the grading policy or the assignment weight. I stated this before. Something else, they need more time. This is a big one that I didn't realize, but kids need more time, especially in a digital setting. to complete their work, because we've all had instances where we thought we were, oh, I'm going to make this Google slide. And then before we know it, 2 hours have passed because we can't get something to work the way we want it to work. And so kids need more time too for the assignments we give them. And then something, it's just the facts. This is true. They never really were a good student before COVID hit. These are the things we have to accept. They weren't that good. They weren't that good of a student. They weren't really that intrinsically motivated in the first place. So it's 10 times harder to get them motivated in a digital or even in a hybrid setting. And sometimes, kids can be petty, just like adults, and they just don't like the subject, the teacher, or the students. I mean, I know I've had it where kids might not like me as a person. And so they don't do the work because they think they're getting back at me, but they're really hurting themselves. It's just kids are kids. But these are some reasons they might not do their work. Last two, unfortunately, people in general, sometimes they're short-sighted and they don't understand that their actions today impact their tomorrow. So it's very important to constantly update them, communicate with them on how they're doing. And then they just might be bored, or they're too smart for their own good. Like, we all have that kid that says, oh, I already know this. Why do I have to do this? So it's important also to connect your work to real life, so they understand why they're doing it in the first place, which might motivate them to do it. So we have the student hierarchy of needs. And basically, if we look at the top, this is where we want our students to be. We want them to move up this hierarchy. But remember, the students, if a student does not feel connected to the group, they can't get their materials. They don't hear the instructor. They don't see the screen. They won't participate in the whiteboard. They won't ask questions. So you have to think to yourself, are some of my students who aren't doing well, are they not? How can I make them feel more connected? Maybe give them a job. I gave one kid the job of being the class DJ. I let them create a YouTube playlist. We played it in the morning every day. Believe it, that kid started coming. You have to figure out ways to help them to feel connected so that they can move up. So work solely to meet the different tiers of student needs in a concurrent learning environment. Now, these are things that I heard my students say all the time during remote learning, hybrid learning. And these are some things that might help you to kind of like feel or empathize with the student. So, you have students who have stayed up till 4 a.m. playing the game. I had a student who their cousin broke their computer. They didn't do work for literally a week and a half. I had a student whose Wi-Fi went out. Some kids just don't think they're good enough. They might think they're not good at technology. They give up. Some kids, they don't know what day it is, literally. They might not like their background. There's a lot of stuff going around in their background that they don't want you to see, and that disengages them. They might hate certain sounds you play, or hate the sound. Like everybody gets really annoyed when it's like that reverb sound. So it's like things that just distract them and they don't want to be there. I've had a child that was at their grandma's house with 13 other kids because grandma was in charge of everybody on Wednesdays. So all the grandkids were there trying to learn. They're distracted. They have to watch their brothers and sisters. Some kids have to work. Some kids leave their glasses, or they need glasses. And then some kids the main one is for some kids are on cell phones. It's very hard to fill out a Google Doc on a cell phone. I mean, this is what we're working with. And the biggest one that I put over the students' head is COVID. We're all dealing with coronavirus. Students have had sick family members who have passed away. They're afraid that they're going to get coronavirus. So it's a lot that we're all dealing with, and the kids are too. So we just have to extend that grace to them. Now, let's move on to what works. Now, in this section, I'm going to be doing a lot of not really demonstrations, but a lot of like clicking around, moving. So if I go really fast, just remember that at the end, I will leave room for questions, or also re-show you how to do something. Okay, so let's think about what works. First and foremost, we have to, It could be annoying, it's hard, it's challenging, it's frustrating to constantly have to reach out to parents, but this is what we have to do. We have to partner with the parents. So we have to update parents about missing work in a weekly newsletter. That's what I did. In my newsletter, I had a section called missing work. And right there, I would just put, here's the missing work report. Click here to see if your child's name is on it. Maybe don't put their last name if you want to, but you have to figure out a way to update the parents weekly, either via email, whatever it takes. I really like the Remind app. It was great. You could call, use and Remind. And I'm that teacher that will have my phone right there and be like, Johnny, you're not doing your work. I'm about to send your mom a remind message, remind message right in class. Those are the things you have to do because kids need to know that you care and that you're paying attention to what they're doing. You call parents, text parents, email parents. These are obvious things. If you don't have a Google Voice number, consider getting it. If you don't want parents to have your number, these are things that you can do. Now let's get into next step. Let's streamline and organize. So the first step to me is to create a quick, easy way that has what the students are doing and how to get to the work that they're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a few examples. So here's my first example that I created in my class. When we had a synchronous time or whatever, or independent work time, whatever it might be, I would put them in groups. They would see their name. I would share this with the students. They see their name and, hey, kid, click right here. Here's your assignment. So no, there's no excuse like, I don't know where to go. Like it has their name, where to click, what you're doing. That's an example. Another example that I did was, I would also always do like a small group agenda. So let's say, because I did do a lot of agendas, like beginning a synchronous agenda, a small group agenda. So for instance, this is what today is small group. This is what you're doing in small group. If you click on the day and OMG, it's going to take you to Monday. So you know, you can't say, I don't know where to go. And then right here, it has, this is what we're going to do in small group. This is what you do during asynchronous time. So there's no excuse for the child not to be busy and also not to know what to do. Example, I think this is just similar to what I just showed you, but it's a weekly forecast. So I would do this every Monday so that students know like what was coming up. So for instance, if you have a test on Friday, every Monday I show them this is what we're doing. So then they know, oh, I need to come to school on Friday. It's a test, you know? So if you can kind of even give them a gauge of what's coming up or what's ahead, it helps. And my last example would be, this is another small group thing. So this is just like another small group agenda. But the difference is I love using color. So what I would do is I would color code the kids based off of what day they finish their work. And then on Fridays, I would like give them a treat. Like for instance, Jada, she finished her work during a small group on Monday. She's doing great. This kid finished on Thursday. This kid finished on Wednesday. But then I would always say, if your name's in the white, that means you haven't done anything. You need to get to work. Like seeing kids seeing their name does sometimes like propel them into action. Just like in our classrooms, I used to post kids' names on the board. You have to figure out digital ways to do this. And all these examples you can make them for yourself if you want. All right, so another thing that I found that works is to present all the time. Always present everything you're doing. If you're doing a do now, first and foremost, make sure you present a timer. If the do now is 7 minutes, you should have a timer on your screen presenting that so that kids stay on task and they know like, oh, she's timing me. This is important. Let me get this done. During the do now, if their do now was, let's say their do now was a Google form, on Google Forms, you can present and you can see like in real time as kids are turning in their work. Also, you can see in real time in Google Classroom as a kid turns it in. So I would always present my Google Classroom and that particular assignment and show as kids turn it in. So you can say, you can literally see like, did they turn it in? Are they still working on it? And they can see it as well. So just in my opinion, it's imperative to always present what you want them to know, like present in a way that holds them accountable, not just present in a way to instruct. So that's a tip that I would give. Create missing assignment reports and share these with the students via email, on the Google Stream. And also, like, you could create a topic in your classroom that literally says missing work reports. I gave 2 examples of ones that I use in my classroom that you could use yourself. So I would send this report every Monday in the newsletter, and it would just say like what they didn't finish, what they needed to finish, and it gave a link to what they needed to do. So no parent could say, oh, I don't know what they're supposed to do, and I don't know how to get to it. Well, you do, because you got a missing work report, you got the link, and it was in a newsletter. So it's kind of a way to like cover yourself and then make sure everything is pretty clear. Another example is, this is what we did on Fridays. Oh, I'm sorry. This is just like a reflection for grades that I would give as a do now. And I would do this like maybe during progress report time, and then I would do it again at the beginning of a quarter. So kids, and in this chart, I would put in like how many A's I had, how many B's I had, how many C's, D's, and F's. And like, let's say if I have 9 F's and I have 1 B, that sometimes gets kids going too, because it's still ambiguous. They don't know who has it, but it makes them think, well, if it's only 1 kid that has an A and 12 kids who have a D, I might have a D. I need to get my work in, get this done. So this is something I would always give to the kids. Just calculate the scores and have them reflect in the middle and at the beginning of a new quarter. And sometimes that helped with work as well. If you're not using GoGuardian, make sure you're using GoGuardian. It is a really effective tool. The only caveat with GoGuardian, which we all know, if a student is on their own personal laptop, we can't see their screen. That is, I hope they work on that. GoGuardian, if you hear me, that needs to get fixed. But if you use GoGuardian, most kids are using their CPS stuff. You can see a majority of them, and you can use it as a positive reinforcement too, which is something that I use. I would send a lot of messages like to individual students, just typing great work, good job being the first kid there. I see you're done, do this next. I also would send announcements like we are on page 78 and the whole class sees it. I would use GoGuardian as an incentive where like if you get done with your work, I'll exclude you from the class so you don't have like all the scene restrictions for 5 minutes because you got done. So you can use it as an incentive. If you need training, I put a link here for you. Use the scenes. It helps. Like every time you see a kid on the wrong site, I would consider using the allowed scene. And then when you see a kid on the wrong site, it's going to be a button you can click and you can add that to a block site. And then before you know it, your like whole scene is filled with all the sites kids shouldn't go to, but they're blocked. I lock kids' devices. If I tell a child like, hey, you should be doing this, and it's like my 3rd or 4th time and they're constantly off task, I'll lock their device. And sometimes that's enough to be like, oh, because their parent might walk by and see that why does it say lock, and then, but make sure you bring them back, of course. Use screenshots. That's a good thing to send to the parents as well. Like, hey, I saw your child on Hulu. Here's a screenshot. They're supposed to be doing their test. It goes a long way. And then also you can open tabs for students on GoGuardian. So if you see a student struggling or they're a little off task, you can put, like, let's say they're supposed to be on Dreambox, you can put the URL to Dreambox and literally force that tab to be open for them during real time in class. So those are some suggestions. Also, make sure that the students, not like we understand the Google Classroom, but a lot of kids kind of don't understand it. So it's important to like teach them their class, just like in your physical class, you would teach them like, this is where the sharpener is. This is where you get books from. This is where you sit during small group time. You need to do that in your Google Classroom too. So make sure the stream, this is where I mainly put updates and discuss things for topics and assignments. Make sure that they're not too many. and that it's easy for kids to understand. I email students. That's what I use people for. A lot of the students don't realize they have this class drive, which has all their work in it. So that's important to show them. And then also the calendar is important to show them. And maybe on Mondays you say, check your Google Calendar. What's due this week? Like just building in that 5-minute time to kind of like get them organized. Also show the view your work is really vital because it shows they're missing work, what they turned in, and then what's still assigned. So this is really, really important for them to look at and to understand. And then also in the settings section of their Google Classroom, they can change the email function. So if they're in their Google Classroom, and I took time with my students to set this up. So let's say they're in their Google Classroom and we go to the hamburger grid right there and we go to settings. I made sure that students, 1, had email notifications turned on, and then 2, that they had like certain ones turned on. So work and other posts from the teacher. They should have this on so that if they check their email, they'll know you sent them a response. If they don't have it on, they might not catch your comments or what you're saying. And also, like if their work is late, theirs will look different because it's from the teacher, but they still do have something like that in their Google Classroom. So those are things to consider. Also, let's streamline our classes, our Google Classrooms just in general. So that's what I'm going to show you now. To me, it's very important to organize the topics, which are like the categories of your class. So create a topic in your Google Classroom that is focused on graded work. To me, this is the first step to increase like student completion of assignments, because so I'm going to take you to my Google Classroom again. I have this open twice. It's all good. So here's my Google Classroom. And if you look at my classroom, just from the teacher view, you can tell, like, look at all this stuff. If I'm a kid, I might just get a little overwhelmed and I might not know like where to go. So it's important. So for me, how I set mine up is I was just like, here's Monday, here's Tuesday, here's Wednesday. And at the beginning of the week, I would just empty this stuff out so that each day of the week was empty. So then they weren't confused, like, was this the work from 2 Mondays ago or for this Monday? And then what I would do is if it was something that I was put in the grade book, I would move that assignment to a section that's called grade book so that the students knew, like, everything that's in this section is in the grade book. If you see that you're missing anything in this section, then you know that you need to complete it because it's going in the grade book. But if something, because some stuff is just practice. So if it's not in that grade book section, don't waste time working on that. I'm not going to grade it, and it's not going to go in the grade book. So those are just like differentiating. Those things sometimes makes a huge difference. It helped my students a lot. And a lot of students did come to me and was like, oh, this is so much better. Like, I know what I have to do. Also, I would suggest making some of the work material, especially if it is practice, because once you make it an assignment, it's going to show up as missing and it's going to show up in your grade book and give you more work. So when you go to create at the top, I would suggest clicking on material, because then it's not going to go in the grade book. If they don't do it, it's not going to show up as missing. It'll just be something that they could work on. So that's something. And just a side little tip, if you're not using the reuse post in your classroom, make sure you're using that, because that makes your job easier. Just saying, that's a side thing. All right, let's keep going. So if we look, something else that helped me with getting the grades up was the way I communicated with them. I was kind of trying to do an antiquated system and I had to let it go. So the first thing is I started using Google Chat to communicate, like, hey, Malcolm, you didn't turn in your test. It's due tomorrow. Like, they respond quicker to the chat. And they do read those messages. So I would use chat for updates, or sometimes like for attendance, like, hey, it's 8 o'clock. You should be in school. We start at 7:45. And believe it or not, you'll get some kids that'll just like start showing up if you send them a chat message. And something else that I feel a lot of people might not know about is templates. You can create templates in your Gmail. You can create a template for missing, and an example of one would be like a missing work report, a failure notice, a grade update, or attendance concern. So now I'm going to show you how to make a template within your Gmail. And if I go too fast again, I will show you this at the end. So don't worry about it. So for the template, in order to do that, you have to go to your settings in your Gmail. Oh, mine is going to be slow today of all the days. Let me close some of these tabs. That might help. All right. Oh, okay. So you're going to go to the advanced, you're going to go see all settings. So once you click on that, that's going to take you to all the settings. And the one you want is advanced settings. So once you click advanced settings, you'll see templates. And you're going to just click on enable. Once you click on enable, whenever you compose an email, you can save that and reuse it over and over and over again. So for instance, when you click on the three little dots, now you'll see templates there. And now you can create, like, once you write one email, you can save it. You can save it to a template and it'll always show up. So like you can have here's my missing assignment one. And literally it's like, hello, you are missing. And then I would put the assignment, please turn it in. But it saved me time. Or you can, another template I had was a missing work report template. I would give, like, if kids, I'll be like, give them a generic template that you got an A on an assignment. So you can do a parent update template, like things like that. And it just makes your life quicker, easier, and you can communicate fast at a faster level by using templates in your class. So that's something to consider. And then also, let's streamline that classroom time. One important thing is consider blocking off time once a week for missing work. This is what I did. I know we have Wednesdays, which is a great time to block off time for missing work. But we also would do it on Fridays, and we would call it asynchronous Fridays. And basically, during this time, students have the last hour of the day to complete missing work. And then me and my partner at the time, we would have a Google Meet where kids could come and see me, or kids could come and see her and ask for help. It's basically like a digital study hall. That's basically what we created. And then we would just show the students, like, this is what you're missing for the week. This is what you need to turn in, and have the links. And then you always have those kids who get done quick. So consider having something for them to do if they don't see their name, because they did all their work. So, and we partnered together. So I had a section for math, and then she had a section for ELA. So that's something to consider. Just block off a time each week, like a study hall. So of course you have to focus. Something that works is having engaging activities. Nobody wants to be bored. We as teachers don't want to sit through boring PowerPoints when people literally read the PowerPoint slide to us. It's boring. You are disengaged. So we cannot be doing the same thing with our students. It has to be engaging. These are all, and when you get this, there's links to every single one of these websites that I found kids enjoy. Boom cards are really good for little kids. They really like them. And the reason I put Teachers Pay Teacher is because they have a lot of good free resources. And they have a new thing called Easel where kids can write on assignments. And they also have a lot of free boom cards on Teachers Pay Teachers that you can use in your class. Also, choice boards are always fun. Kids love choice. We all love choice. So here's an example of one I use in my classroom. It's called Determine Your Own Grade. You can use this if you want, but kids got to pick what activities they did. And then based off of how many they picked to do, that was the grade they received overall. So this is a great, like, review activity. If you're wrapping up a unit, on fractions, you can it's easy to find like everything you've taught, and then they can pick what they want to do. So this is, the choice boards are also extremely awesome. Okay, I have a hand raised. Miss Watkins. Danielle Watkins? Oh, maybe it was accident. Okay, so let's keep oh no. Let's keep going. So fun and games. So fun and games, kids learn when they play games. I mean, kids love Kahoot. We all know this. I literally had kids who are playing Kahoot while they're supposed to be in class. I mean, they really like Kahoot. They really like Prodigy. I discovered that as that game they really do enjoy. For little kids, my son plays PBS Kids over the weekend. He really likes it. He learns a lot. So I just put some examples of some great games for you to use in your class. Flippity, if you haven't used this website, it's awesome because it has a lot of game templates on it. So it has like a spinner, it has a board game you can build, it has bingo, I mean, it has crossword puzzles. Kids love word searches. Why? I have no idea, but it has everything that you can use to help you out. Okay, so last but not least, it's very, very important of forging that bond with your students. When students know you care, they care. I don't remember that saying, but it's like students only work for you if they know you care, or it's something like that. You know what I'm saying. So let's move on to that. So reasons to do incentives and let them know you care. If we think about culturally responsive education, there's 3 strategies that work the best. 1, gamify your lesson. 2, make it social. And 3, storify it. When you have stories, you use those 3 things, kids get more engaged. So seeing their name makes a difference. Competition goes along. We love to compete. We all love to compete. And actually, if you're a remote student, you want to feel the most normal as possible. When you keep incentives, it helps them feel normal. So here's some examples of things that I use in my classroom to build morale. I did student of the week. I did attendance bingo, which is basically cool. You can use this for anything, any topic. Maybe you want them, I don't know, to turn in their work on time. Every time they came to class and had a high percentage, they would get a little happy face. And I just used a random number generator from Google. You can type in Google number generator. It'll give you a dice and you can just pull the numbers. And kids just got really turned up about this when it was time to pull numbers. So this is a great activity to build morale. Sending them a note, just sending them a nice email. It goes a long way. I used to do business meetings as well because kids need to be informed of what's going on. So in these meetings, I would give attendance updates. I would give, these are the students of the week. I would talk about the jobs a kid could do. I would say, here's the overall school attendance. And this is a great opportunity. I use this opportunity to go through the grading scale again, over and over. These are the kids who have A's right now. So it's a business meeting once a month. I mean, it goes a long way. Even if it does go into your class time, during this time of the way the year is going, I think it's important to sometimes stop instruction and make sure everybody's like connected and engaged. I put in here a point matrix for you. If you want to get, really extreme and use points with your class, you can use it. I used to do Fun Friday and the kids loved it. That was a good digital thing. They just like watching a movie together as a class. It really went a long way. And each time they did one of these activities, like for instance, they stayed muted, their camera was on, nobody's weird in the chat, they were on task and prepared, they would get a check. And then once they get 5 checks, then they're able to earn a letter. And their goal is to spell out Fun Friday. So you can kind of like drag it out, if you just want to do Friday, then just do Friday. But it's ways to kind of get them on track for the week and they know they're all working towards something. And then for each letter they earned, they would get like a small treat. So maybe they got free points, they got computer time. When they got an N, they didn't have to have their camera on for those days. Little things like that go a very long way. I also every day did a morning message. The morning message said what they were doing for the day, what their announcements for upcoming events, the attendance rock stars, the attendance average, things of that nature. So it's always a good thing. Something else that was engaging is I would always start the class with like a cool picture. Like what's going, like if you start the class kind of fun, you'd be surprised how many kids are just like, oh, what's next? I can't wait. So it's really important to like start off fun or start off with like a riddle, something that's like not as serious to kind of get them engaged. Next, sorry. It's important to reinforce positive behavior and deal promptly with academic problems. So here's some great websites for classroom management. I put an article in here for you about classroom management tools, like over 100 classroom management tools, but these ones are the ones I like the most. Class Dojo is more for littler kids. Class Craft, if you haven't done this with your students, it is awesome. Kids love it. It's like a it's a gamified like classroom management system. They get to build avatars, they go on quests, they go to different levels, they have powers, and all the powers and all the stuff is like already built for you. So you don't have to come up with as much with this because most of it is just set for you and all you have to do is just play. So this is a great website to use for like 5th grade to high school. That's what it's more geared towards. Because kids don't feel Class Dojo after a while. They like, we did that in 2nd grade. So it didn't work out. Okay, moving on. So let's talk about some incentive ideas for remote students. Here's some ideas if you're trying to think like, what can I do with them? Free time always goes a long way. Excluding them from the Google Go Guardian session goes a long way. Unlimited bathroom breaks. Considering they're remote, they don't realize you technically have unlimited bathroom breaks, but you can still give it to them and they think it's a great treat. You know, turning off the camera, 10-minute break, put them in a breakout room with a friend. They love it. A dance break on Go Noodle. Give them jobs, extra points, show and tell. They love that. They show their pets. It's funny. Movie day, they get to pick a YouTube video. Let them play music during class that they picked. You can give electronic gift cards if you want to take it to that level. And just remember, we have to expect the unexpected. Things are not going to go our way. It's not going to be easy. We will face technical issues, changes in the system, changes in the district, or quarterly changes. We'll hit the reset button. We all know on Monday, a bazillion more kids are about to come back. So whatever you just worked on is going to change. So we just have to expect that there's still going to be kids who just still don't turn in their work no matter what you do. So some students just won't buy into your incentive systems. It'll take time to set up and you might have to change your point systems around, or you might have to change what you're using until you find what works. I put some teacher resources in here for you because my goal is to make everybody's life easier. If you are not using the Elmo interactive tool, it is phenomenal. And it's a great tool for hybrid learning because if you buy a mini USB cord and connect it to your Elmo and then connect that to your computer, you can present to the students that are present and also present to the students that are home while using your Elmo. So something to consider. All right. So if you have I would love your feedback. It only makes me better. I feel like I was not as attentive to the chat. I apologize in advance for that. I just started going. But I'm going to put a link in the chat for the feedback form. I would love to have that. Remember also that you can get ISB credit by filling out the evaluation on Sched or Sketch, whatever works for you. But make sure you fill that out. Some things to check out. If you haven't read the book, Cultivating Genius, it's awesome. And it'll change the way you see your students and how you teach them. This is a great article on culturally responsive teaching, and I thought it was succinct. It gives you 3 tips and a great way to start. I'm featured on the Mindful Math podcast, and I'm talking about more incentives on there. If you want to listen to me talk more, then click on that. And of course, we have the instructional technology website where we help you out and give you tips and videos on how to do things. So thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. Remember, you can do it. If you're a water boy, I'm sorry. But remember, you can do this. If you have any questions, now's the time. I'm going to put the link to, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm going to put the link to this whole PowerPoint, this whole presentation. It's coming. Just give me 1 minute and I'm going to put the link in the chat for you. It's just loading up. So let me see if I have any questions. Any questions? Anything you wanted me to show you? Any commentary? Okay, well, let me just get this link for you guys, and we'll be good to go.
Joy, it looks like Tommy, I hope I'm saying that name correctly, was wondering if you could re-show the game slide.
Oh, sure. Okay, I'm going to put the link in the chat for you to the presentation. Oh, it did not link. Oh, golly. Let me try it again. Okay, let me go to the game slide. Tommy, was it this one or was it Joy? Or was it this one? Okay, I think it was this one. This is the fun and game slide. Okay, let me get this to you. Okay. Here's the link. All right. And here's the link to the presentation for everyone. That one should work. And it's been a pleasure. If I have any questions or anything, oh, it's my dad. My dad is here. Hello. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. Oh, cool. Hi, Dad. Any other questions or anything? All right. Well, have a great day. Thank you for coming to LitCon. We love that you're here. Hi, Chrissy. That's whose podcast I was talking about. Chrissy Ellison, the Mindful Math Coach. Thank you, Yolanda. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Danielle. Have a great day. Bye, Cynthia. Have a great day. You're welcome, Ms. Hicks.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Jen. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I tried my best.
No, it was great. I loved it. It was really fun.
Good. All right. So we got about 2 more minutes. If there's anything you wanted me to show you how to do, another slide you wanted me to go to, I'm more than willing to demo those things for it. Go back to question time. Okay. All right. Well, have a good day. I feel like there's a question looming, but no one is asking it. Let me see if there's anything in the chat. Maybe there's questions in the chat I missed.
Roy, can I make a comment?
Of course.
I just love the presentation that you made. I'm a librarian, so sometimes I have kids that have not completed an assignment, and I sometimes feel bad saying, for example, so-and-so, you haven't finished an assignment, or posting it. And so I tend to be like, okay, let's walk through our Google Classroom. These are the assignments that see if you have anything missing. I don't know. Is it just me? It's okay to say, hey, so-and-so, you have this missing. I always feel like I'm putting you on blast. It's kind of like, I feel like I don't want to embarrass you. So I'm having a hard time with that.
I 100% agree with you. And I actually really struggle with that. I really didn't start doing it until I did it more last year, but because you don't want a kid to get bullied and you don't want kids to be like, you don't never do your work,
Right.
things like that. So I tried to a lot of times I try to reverse it. Sometimes that's what I did in the beginning. So if you don't have like that culture there where you know the kids know not to bully each other and respect each other, my suggestion is to shout out the kids who have done it. And then you can say, like, if you don't see your name, that probably lets you know you didn't do it. So that's sometimes like a reverse way. Instead of like focus on who didn't do it, you can like focus on the kids who did. And then a kid will be like, I don't see my name up there. They'll literally say that. And then sometimes you'll be like, well, that's because you didn't do it. And then sometimes like that gets them to do it. That's like a reverse way, especially if you're like nervous about that. And if you're nervous about that with parents, I would say like also like you could just, here's the kids who did the work. If you don't see your child's name, that means they're missing it. But a lot of parents I've encountered really do want to know. And usually if it's a kid, like I had a couple kids who were like, don't read off if I'm missing it. Don't read off my grades. Don't read this off. And there's always a couple, and you just respect that. But a majority of the kids, they do want to know their grades, and they do want to know like what they're missing. That's what I've encountered. It's more kids that want to know.
Mm.
Did that help or not?
Yeah,
I see what you're
it's that moral thing, like, oh, I just don't want to embarrass you, especially with the middle schoolers. I don't want to embarrass you, but you have all these assignments missing. And it's like they know how to check, but they just don't check it, and they just don't do the work. And you extend grace all the way around.
And sometimes something else I did was like I would create like a separate Google Meet for them and invite them. And not let them know what the reason is, like maybe come up with like a fun title so they're not like free. Because if it says like missing work meeting, they're not going to show up. But if you say like, oh, like maybe just meet with them individually and go through the work, which it sounds like you're already doing. But in some situations, I just think that kids are so disconnected that they really do think that they're doing better than they are. So as much as you can, just keep it real with them. That's what we had to do to me in this situation.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah. It's tricky. It is. It's tricky, but you'll find what works for you. And once you find it, you'll be like, okay, I got this. You'll find what works for you, and just keep doing it. Whether it's a note, an email. Have you ever used chat with them? Because usually I found like Google Chat, they respond, especially the older kids. They like love getting messages, and they'll like get to it.
Yeah. No, I'm not really. I haven't really. It's just I'm a librarian, so I see so many classes, and my time goes by really quickly, 50 minutes, and it's just very stressful for me because I got to teach, and then I got to monitor, and then I got to assess, and it all happens within a period of 50 minutes. So.
It takes so much time. It's time consuming because you got to teach, but now you have another component where you got to basically manage their grades. So that's like another job in and of itself. So
that's right.
I get it. I wish I had an easy solution. I just don't. No problem. I hope you have a good day.
So much.
No problem. Is that Tara? Tara, you're here. That's my sister. All the family support today. Okay, are there any other questions? I'm headed to the 2:00 session. I'm very excited. But yeah, our session is over. All right, everyone, have a good day. Oops, what did I do? How do I do?